This is my original Stratocam from, I don't know, a couple of years ago I bought it. And I got the EFC 721 camera there with it. Now, I've used the EFC 721 camera much more than I've used the plane. I used the camera on all sorts of other planes, but I got it with this plane. Getting this plane to fly now is very difficult. You can only fly it with its own weird little transmitter. It won't bind to a regular DSM2 or DSMX transmitter. And I have great trouble getting it to initialize even with this transmitter now. I was mucking around at home. It took me about a quarter of an hour of mucking around at home before I could get it to talk to the transmitter and acknowledge control. And then I left the battery door at home because the battery door comes right off. So now I've got a piece of cardboard taped on in place of the battery door. We do have control now, and the camera is there, so if I press the button, supposedly, this controls the camera through the receiver. Oh, hang about, the cameras, I can't see, I'm going cross-eyed, whoops. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what angle the camera should be at. It's very hard, it always was with this, it always is on anything with this camera, hard to know where to point it because it doesn't have any kind of viewfinder or ability to talk to anything via wireless or anything. Hopefully that should give some view where you can see something. Now let's see if we can get the camera to start recording. Supposedly the trigger on the transmitter should do that. Yeah, that looks as if it's recording. I mean, it's not really that necessary unless you want to turn it on in mid-air, since you can turn it on perfectly well just by pressing a button on, which is what I usually do now. I used to keep mucking around trying to wire it to things, but then I decided, what's the point? It's easier just to press the button. It's pretty darn misty today. But then, that's somebody else, that's not me. I did not move that today. So someone else moved it and didn't put it back. I move it quite often because I want to take micros off from the table. It is kind of misty, but I'm not going to go very far away with this guy, and it's mostly ground mist, I think, and also the sun's going to come up from behind those trees. It's actually technically up already. It's technically past sunrise. That's the moon up there, of course. But the sun will come up, and then the mist will clear. Oh dear. Now, I don't know to what degree this guy may or may not run on the grass. Famous last words. No, he won't. Not at the moment, anyway. He's got rather small wheels. I don't really want to hand launch him. And he's a bit big to take off the table. Okay, maybe what we'll do is stop that camera recording. Okay, I'm trying, and we'll just temporarily. I tried to put out a plastic runner. I don't know. It's all very complicated life. And of course I only have two hands. No, we've got him picture mode now. Shut up. Now we're back in video mode. And now we're recording. We hope. Okay. Tricycle undercarriage, but very small wheels. Of course, no strap. I don't know. Well, that didn't work anyway, did it? It got him going, but he still doesn't have enough power. I guess I'm going to have to resort to hand launching him. Oh, if it isn't one blithering thing, it's another. I don't like hand launching. Oh, what the heck. Now see, now the camera's stopped, which I didn't mean to do. More trouble than it's worth, frankly, this remote camera control, because you just have to do it accidentally. Okay, so now the camera's recording again. Okay, I hate hand launching like that. I hate having to hand launch something that's not all that terribly stable and then get my hands back to the sticks. I don't mind gliders so much, but this guy does not much want to go up either. Well, he does have brushed motors. He has 2 brushed motors. 3-channel with 2 brushed motors. This is as far up as he'll go. I've basically got, well, I've not got full power on, but I've got full up elevator and I'm trying to climb him. And he's not doing much. Well, I mean, you know, I've certainly got my money's worth out of the camera. The plane is barely viable anymore. It was never a terrific flyer. And it is barely viable at all anymore, the plane. But, of course, you can buy the camera without the plane. I hadn't run across the camera. This was my first exposure to it, as it were. No pun intended, particularly. And it really is. I've basically had full up elevator on pretty much the whole time with this, and it just doesn't want to go up anywhere. Not full power. It's only about half power, but I suppose if I give it more power, it'll go up more. And it is gradually climbing, but that's about it. I don't know. I don't know. No. Wobbles around. Certainly, given that I'm basically giving it full up elevator and a fair amount of power, I don't think you'd ever loop the thing. I don't know. What if I was thinking about cutting power and trying to let it glide, but I don't much want to lose what height I've got. It took me forever to get this much height. I've turned, it has stabilization supposedly. It's a pretty basic form of stabilization. It's only a 3-channel plane and it's more or less a sort of glider configuration. Anyway, I turned what stabilization there is off now. Doesn't really seem to make a lot of difference. And he just doesn't have much power or much control, whatever you do. I suppose you've got perhaps more scope to get yourself into trouble, but you don't have much more scope to maneuver for taking the stabilization off, because even with this is with no stabilization. He doesn't have any ailerons, he's just 3-channel. He doesn't have differential thrust either, apparently. The Stratos, which he's sort of kind of based on, they had a version without the camera called the Firebird Stratos before this, and that had differential thrust, although it still didn't have ailerons, which probably gave it a bit more maneuverability. They dispensed with that on this. This guy just has a conventional elevator and rudders. He has an elevator and elevators and a rudder. Mangling my words here. And he has 2 motors, but they don't have differential thrust. And they're just little brushed motors. So, I don't know, you know, I mean, probably all you're ever going to do is flying around in circles, but you can take video with him. So, as a plane, they did sell it off quite cheaply. I mean, I got this one fairly cheaply. I believe at one point they were selling it off in the States for about, originally it was more like 200, but then they were selling it off, I think, for about 100 US or something. I don't remember what I paid for this one. I got a pretty good deal on this one. I bought this one from Paris Junction Hobbies a couple of years ago. A year and a half ago, a couple of years ago, something like that. And I got a pretty good deal on it, and I've certainly, albeit the plane doesn't do much, I've certainly got my money's worth out of the camera. The camera's been on many, many flights. I use the Tactic Drone View a lot now instead, because the Tactic Drone View is a somewhat better camera in various respects. It has a wider field of view, and it has wireless, so you can see where it's looking. You can use a tablet or a phone or whatever. I use a little cheap Android tablet to see where it's looking. Even what little power I have, I seem to be losing now. Maybe the batteries. This thing flies off it flies off the same battery, like I say, the Concendo, a 1300 milliamp hour 2-cell. Got a couple of things, and something else I was flying just recently flies off those same batteries. I forget what now, but I know the Concendo flies. Oh, the Delta Ray, that's another thing that flies off these. The Delta Ray, the Concendo, this guy. Of the three, the Concendo is by far the best to me. I mean, I get more pleasure out of the Concendo. The Delta Ray's fun as well. I have a video on the Delta Ray as well. Delta Ray does more than this guy, at least. But the Concendo is, it's a good glider, and you can actually do, you know, basic aerobatics with it as well if you want to. I mostly just fly it as a glider, but it's got enough power to do basic aerobatics as well. I really like the Concendo. They've discontinued the Concendo, though. I don't know why. But anyway, we're not really going to do much else with this guy, I suppose. I mean, what else are you going... What else can you do with him, really, you know? I mean, about the most exciting thing you can fly with him is a figure of 8, because he has little power and not a vast amount of control, however you do it. And as I say, what little power he has seems to be expiring now, so we'd probably better think about bringing him in. Because I had trouble getting him up to any sort of altitude. See how the mist is clearing now as the sun comes up? I had great trouble getting him to go anywhere in the first, you know, even getting up a bit in the first place. And now he seems to be losing even that little amount of power that he had. So we're bringing him in to land now. This is all... Oh, oh, well, that was my own stupid fault. I ran right into the runner. I ran his little wheels into the end of the runner, and that's stopped him up with a jerk. He's not broken, I don't think. The wing is meant to come off like that. The wing just pops in under. Of course, I let go of my transmitter because I'm expecting to have a strap. No, the wing just pops in. Oh, I don't know. Is the camera still recording? Oh, yes, it is. Okay, so let's turn it off. Yeah, the camera should now not be recording, and we'll try and pick him up. Talk about no good deed goes unpunished. I left that in the middle of the runway. I shouldn't wrap it up if I'm not going to use it again. And his wheels hit it as he landed. He was landing fairly decently, and then he ran right into the end of that runner and tripped over. But the wing has this sort of quick release system. It's just sort of slotted in at the front, and then it has a little thing that holds it on at the back, a little rod that holds it on at the back there. So, hang about. I think we may have bent the front wheel a bit. Okay. See, the wing just, it goes in, there's a tab that goes into a slot at the front there, and then it slides under there. That's how the wing goes on. And it's not very strongly attached, so it's pretty easy to get it to come off. Not got a lot of power. No throttle cuts, you have to just watch your fingers. Oh dear. Yeah. I'm just trying to... Oh. No, even that, it didn't so much break as partially come out. Okay. Well, there you go. The HobbyZone Stratocam. I can't enthusiastically recommend the plane, really. Nah, just buy the camera and put it on something else. That would tend to be my suggestion, really. It's the EFC 721 camera. Not a bad camera. Some people have complained about it. I don't think it's bad. I've taken lots of videos with it. I've never had a problem with it, really. It takes quite decent video. The drone view takes better video, but the drone view weighs twice as much. It's like weighs a full ounce, whereas this only weighs about half an ounce. And it works perfectly fine just by pushing the buttons. You don't need to wire it into a servo port. You can, a channel, you can, but really there's not much advantage to it. You can just press the buttons. There you go. HobbyZone Stratocam.